Hey everyone, I hope you're all doing well. I honestly just wanted to make a video about some of my standout favourite books, talk about them a little and just kind of give my thoughts on them, the stories, everything. I don't know how good I'm going to be at reviewing books, but I'm just going to try my best. The first book I want to talk about is Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. This is just such a beautiful and profound book. It follows the story of a man called Charlie. He has a very low IQ to the point where he's considered intellectually, mentally disabled. So he leads a very simple life, but he is also always searching for a way to become accepted and become more intelligent. So there is this experiment which is done on a mouse called Algernon, hence the name of the book. And this experiment essentially heightens the IQ of the mouse, and the mouse becomes incredibly intelligent. And so Charlie signs up as he becomes very intelligent, but he also at the same time realizes that all these people were making fun of him before. And at the same time as this, the mouse, Algernon, actually goes through some kind of deterioration. He becomes kind of mad, and eventually the mouse dies, and then Charlie has to come to terms with this happening to himself as well. And yeah, it is just such a incredible story, and it stayed with me for such a long time after I read it. I just have to recommend this book. The next book you guys probably know already. This is Nausea by Jean-Paul Sartre, and it has become very popular in recent years, I think. This book is definitely one of the first things which kind of kick-started my interest in philosophy. His book is just about the human experience of being confronted with a world which is sometimes very alien to you. And the nausea is this kind of feeling that the main character gets when he just looks at the world around him and everything becomes grotesque, everything loses meaning. He just feels like an alien in his own world. I think that this book has definitely surged in popularity for a reason. I think that a lot of us experience feeling kind of disconnected from our everyday lives, feeling like every day feels the same, or just we do meaningless things. And yeah, I just think that this book is a great read for anyone who's interested in philosophy, and I really recommend it. The next book I want to talk about is A Little Princess by Frances Hodgson Burnett. If I had a childhood book, then this would be it. I have so many great memories of reading this book with my dad. I think that's something else that goes into having a favourite book. I feel that it's not just about the story, it's also about the personal connections that you have to a book. So yeah, I have really great memories of reading this with my dad. It follows this little girl called Sarah who is sent to England from India. She has a very close relationship with her father, and he's very wealthy. He buys her everything she could ever want. And then once she goes off to this boarding school, her father quickly dies after that. So she's left in a very unfamiliar world at a young age, and she kind of has to come to terms with a very sudden change in her life. And yeah, I don't know how interesting this would be an adult reader, but I can still recommend this book with all my heart. The next book I want to talk about is Pale Fire by Vladimir Nabokov. I came across this book 3 years ago, and the first time I read it I was so confused. I was like, genuinely what is going on? And I read it again and I was still confused. And I think that's why I love this book so much. That's what drew me so much to this book. I like books that take a little, they're not just what they are on the surface, and I think that's why I love Nabokov's writing so much. This book is essentially about this professor called Charles Kimboat, who moves to this place called, I think it's called Appalachia. I don't think that's right, but anyway. He basically moves to this university town, and he meets this professor called John Shade, who he almost becomes obsessed with. John Shade then dies, and he gets access to his collection of poetry, and then this book basically is by Kimboat, and it's supposed to be analysis of the poetry, so it starts off with an introduction, and then we have a section with the actual poetry in the middle, and then after that it's like a pretty detailed analysis of the poetry. But the interesting thing about this book is that Kimbo is clearly very preoccupied with this land called Zembla, and then he says that he was a previous king of the land, and then through his analysis he's kind of like going on little like asides about Zembla and about his escape from Zembla, and eventually it's like a full-on narration of his life paralleled with the Zemblan life and like this person who's supposedly following him from that, and it's just crazy. It's like so Nabokov. It is so amazing. I just recommend this book to anyone who will listen to me. The next book I want to talk about is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. This is the first piece of Russian literature I ever encountered. I don't know, I think it's funny how like a lot of my favourite books are like the first piece of philosophical literature, the first piece of blah blah, but I think it really is just a testament to how the first time you encounter something that you really love, it just, you know, influences you so much. But yeah, anyway, Anna Karenina, amazing book. It follows the story of this woman, Anna Karenina, who basically has an affair with Count Vronsky, even though she's already married to some kind of official. And then the book kind of follows her journey through all that, and her kind of decline into paranoia and despair as she becomes isolated from society. And at the same time it also follows a parallel story of Kitty and Levin, who are falling in love, and then they do have a happy ending, you know, despite some ups and downs. But yeah, it's a really great book. I think that the way Tolstoy writes about, you know, human psychology and human relationships, I feel like nothing really comes close to it, really. The dynamics in this book, the conversation, everything is just so human, and it is just an amazing book. The next book I want to talk about is Ariel by Sylvia Plath. This is a little collection of poetry which was actually written shortly before her death. I think it was written in the autumn of 1962, and she died in the February of 1963, I believe. So yeah, this is a very deeply personal collection of poetry. It's so beautiful and poignant. It was actually published after her death, and I read some quote like by a critic saying it felt like it was written after her death as well, which I think you will understand if you pick this up. I never really know how to discuss like collections of poetry besides just saying the themes I think come across very strongly in this book, and are motherhood, more generally female identity, death, suicide and violence, which, you know, very Plath. And yeah, you've probably heard of some poems from here. You've probably heard of Daddy. I just think that it's so intense and personal and striking, and I just really recommend this. I recommend this infinitely over the Bell Jar. The next book I wanted to talk about was this book Orlando by Virginia Woolf, which is the kind of like a biography of this character called Orlando. And I think that the main thing that Woolf is trying to achieve in this book is a very intense like exploration of time, and a kind of more radical like way of looking at time. Orlando's life in this book spans, I think it's nearly 500 years. I'm not completely sure exactly how long it is, but it basically goes across lots of generations, and the character Orlando is very kind of like elusive. So they change like gender halfway through the book, for example, which I think stands out to a lot of people. And I think that like her exploration of time is kind of really human, because, you know, we don't experience time like the same way that a clock tells us we should. You know, like an hour can feel like a day, a week can feel like a second, and I think her book really poignantly shows that as time for Orlando. I don't think it's measured like in years. I think it's measured in experiences and you know, changes in himself, herself, and these kinds of things, which I think a lot of us would relate to. Yeah, I'd say that time in this book is really psychological more than anything else, and that's what really stood out to me. I would say that other than time, it's a book about self and how the self responds to like different historical contexts, because the self may change based on gender and then the different societal expectations which come from that. I just think her writing is so enchanting and unique in this book, to be honest. It just really stood out to me. I love all of Woolf's books that I've read, but yeah, I just really wanted to recommend this one. I think it's really underrated. One of the books I also wanted to talk about is Coat on a Stick by Fruchter, which is a bit of a strange recommendation. I don't know about strange, but like I wasn't sure about putting this in because I wouldn't say it's one of my favourite books, but it's just something that, a book that interested me so much that I really wanted to talk about it. It basically follows this day in the life of an old Jewish man living in New York, and it is just so like intense and descriptive in the way it describes suffering. I think not just physical suffering but emotionally suffering as well as physical suffering, and this intense like sense of isolation that he feels. I think it's done so well. The book kind of shifts between the perspective of I don't know how many, I think 3 different characters, or it does just span a day, but you see lots of different perspectives, and overall it's just like, it just touched me so much. I don't know, yeah, I will recommend this book. I think that's all I'm gonna do for now, but if you guys want more videos discussing books, what I'm reading, things like that, then I can definitely try and do that for you. I really enjoy talking about books. It's definitely been, literature and things have definitely been like a passion of mine since I was really young, so yeah, I'm happy to do that, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time.